We are back live on Sports Today with our dynamic duo, Pragyan Oja and Deep Das Gupta. We are just days away from that first Test match between India and England. As we've already discussed this several times on Sports Today, we've dissected a lot of the squads. We've brought you the latest news. We've done a lot of exclusive interviews with Boria Majumdar. He's brought you all the latest news and interviews from Australia after that historic triumph. But it's time now to talk about what is a marquee Test series in the World Cricket calendar, with World Test Championship points at stake for both these teams, remember. But before we go into who is going to play, who is going to come in, the permutations, the combination, India's back at strength, India playing at home. Before we go to Deep and Pragyan and ask their views on what could be a bit of a happy headache for the team management, here's a look at our sponsored video.
क्या आप भी किसी अपने सपने मेरे तुम्हारे टीम 11 पे टीम बना रहे हो और बच्चों के साथ खेल रहे हो? हमारे साथ खेलोगे? हाउस पे खेलो लेजेंड्स के साथ, हमें हराओ और जीतो डबल कैश. लॉग ऑन टू houseit.com and win real cash.
Right then, it's interesting to talk about this Test match in particular because a lot of things have happened right between March of last year and February of this year. International cricket returning to India after nearly a year, and before that, obviously, we saw the IPL and how the bio bubble was deployed successfully in India's historic triumph in Australia. That has been the talking point of the cricketing circle, the world. With me, Deep Das Gupta and Pragyan Oja, dive straight into you, Deep. It is going to be a tricky situation. Look, if you look at this playing 11, right, with the captain coming back, with Ishants coming back, with Bumrah, Ashwin, all declared fit, so these guys would really pick themselves. But Hardik Pandyas addition in the squad, it's going to be quite a dilemma, right? And if you're including Hardik in that squad, you'd want him to bowl.
Right, and that's the biggest thing. I think one of the reasons why he's there is because there isn't much domestic cricket happening right now, and whatever has been announced is predominantly white ball cricket. So I think Hardik becomes very, very important when you start traveling outside. And obviously at home, you might not feel his importance as much because you have spinning all-rounders in Ashwin, and Jadeja will be back. Washington Sundar's in, Axar's there. But I think his importance increases tenfold when you start traveling, and there is a huge England series coming up. There's a very, very good chance of India qualifying for the World Test Championship finals. That's where I think Hardik will be very, very important. And I think his inclusion in the squad is to make sure that his progress is monitored as a bowler. So yes, I don't think we'll see him in the first test in the playing 11, but I think he's there for a very, very specific reason, is monitoring his progress as an all-rounder, as a bowler.
Right. Important point there from Deepak Pragyan. It's going to be another. It's not just the Hardik Pandya angle, right? Because you look at this team now, and dare I say, Shubman Gill, Rohit Sharma, Pujara, Virat, Rahane, Rishabh, right? These guys at the top 6, they pick themselves. With Ravindra Jadeja not available for the series, it's going to be this other dilemma. Obviously, R. Ashwin will be back to take his mantle as the main spinner for the side. But then, who do you go with? You have Ishant and Bumrah, then they pick themselves. Then that hot spot comes up. Kuldeep Yadav, wrist spinner, Washington, Axar are almost like-for-like replacements. Would India also want to beef up that batting lineup as much as they would want in Australia? And how will they, sort of adhere to their 5 bowling combination? Would there be a temptation to go on with 3 spinners and 2 pacers if Hardik is not on the side?
Yeah, it depends on the wicket, how the wicket is going to behave. So then they will pick, either they will go with one more spinner or maybe Hardik. But Hardik, yes, he's a very big asset for any team that he plays for. But given the fact is that he needs to bowl. If he starts bowling, as Deep Bhai was saying, they will be monitoring him, and he's someone who our team will be preparing him for the England series. But everything comes down to that: can he bowl? Because when you talk about Test match, it's totally different. In one day white ball cricket, maybe you just have maximum of 2 or 3 spells, and then T20 is just 4 overs. So it's totally different. But in Test match, every session you have to bowl. Your body warms up, then it cools down, and then again you have to come warm up and bowl. So every session when you're bowling and you're doing that, so let's see how his body takes all that. That's the reason Test cricket is very important, and you need to be 100% fit. Saying that, I think Kuldeep should get a chance. He walks in Ashwin and Kuldeep, and then they can think about someone like Axar Patel, because Washington Sundar, yes, he was a hero in Australia. He's done that, but we already have a Ashwin. Why not have a variation there? We can have someone like Kuldeep Yadav who can bowl Chinaman, and if you're looking for another spinner, Akshar Patel, he can bat for you, and also he can keep those things tight like Ravindra Jadeja used to do.
Right. And Deep, what is this? It is obviously a happy headache, right? When we're talking, when you
Yeah.
made that important point about Hardik Pandya, whether why he's in the squad, or what could be the reason for him to be in the squad. And we've already discussed this, right? What happens when Hardik returns and Ravindra Jadeja is fit, especially in overseas conditions, because Jadeja is arguably the best all-round in the world now. Where does this leave this Indian team management with? Because remember, this is not the same chip-off pitch. That you'd get bounce, you'd get sharp turn, but we saw that game against England. There was relatively slow turn. It took a monumental effort from Ravindra Jadeja on the final day to seal victory with that 7-4. What sort of temptation would this Indian team be in? Because you have Ashwin, you have Kuldeep, who's almost certain to play. Would they be now also tempted probably to go with three pacers, because we've heard of we've heard word that there could be a tinge of grass, and what can that tinge of grass do to red soil or black soil or mix of that kind of soil in Chennai? Does that have a lot of forbearing on the pitch and conditions? Because the square, as we've heard, is also going to be a little greenish. What can that what sort of impact can that have in a place like Chennai?
Well, to be very honest, I mean, when you're looking at the Chepauk pitch, even if you have a tinge of grass or green on the surface, that's not going to mean that it's going to be a green top, because by nature that pitch is does not help too much of bounce and carry, as we've seen in the last couple of years, and we've seen it during this Syed Mushtaq Ali Trophy as well, and obviously Pragyan covered it too. So there won't be too much of bounce and carry and green top or lateral movement for the seamers. So let's just start off with that pitch first. So I think the pitch should be a normal, and also this being the first test match of the series, you want to play it a little safe. Mind you, England has got really good seam bowling. We got Broad Anderson, Jofra Archer. So obviously you're not going to give them a green top. And also they have decent spinners in Dom Best and Jack Leach, who are in good form. Picked up a lot of wickets in Sri Lanka. So you got to be very, very careful in what kind of pitch you give them. So for me, I think first test, it'll be a normal, flattish, which will help the spinners post day two T onwards, and should be good for batting the first 3 days of it. So I think that's the kind of surface which is a very safe subcontinental surface, I think, will be on offer. Now, there are obviously now the combination. For me, the combination, I personally believe the big question is where they're going to go for 5 bowlers or 4. I think they'll go with 5 bowlers, 4 out and out, plus one either Washington Sundar or Axar. 3-2 in terms of 3 spinners and 2 fast bowlers is what I'm looking at the combination.
Right. But Pragyan, before you head to the combination, you have to see that these players are again coming off quarantine, and there was this talk of Ishants coming back. Great news for India. Jasprit Bumrah obviously missed out on the Brisbane Test, but you get a look at a couple of these players, especially Ishant, who's going to be a front runner with a new ball along with Jasprit Bumrah. He's not played any long form cricket. He's coming off a long injury-induced break. Then he obviously got back into the domestic grind. But how will that sort of play up on his psyche or on his body without that kind of fitness routine, that kind of conditioning, and that kind of lack of first-class cricket, even for somebody of Ishant's experience?
I think he's got a lot of experience. He's been there for quite a lot of time, so he knows that injury is a part of his life as a fast bowler. We've seen hardly any fast bowler playing without injuries, so he knows exactly how to prepare. And I'm very confident. It is all about for these kind of players who have so much experience. It's all about that match practice, and I think Syed Mushtaq Ali, he's played that game. He's back. I think that little bit of butterfly in the tummy won't be there anymore. And I'm quite confident he's going to go and deliver, and he'll be the first choice for sure with Bumrah.
Right. But, gentlemen, this is a very interesting selection, a dilemma ahead of the test match here, because this is historic, right? What India have done, especially with some young boys, inexperienced boys. Remember, Washington Sundar played a first-class match for the before the Brisbane Test. The last time he played a first-class match was in November 2017. He's essentially looked as a white ball specialist in India. You look at Mohammad Siraj, he's obviously done well in first-class cricket, but he does not have that kind of experience. Shardul Thakur debuted in Test cricket in India, bowled about 10 deliveries, out injured. But it is also important for people to know why. We've seen a lot of reactions on social media. We've seen questions that have come into us. Would you take that on how it is not quite going to be possible for all these heroes of Brisbane, all these heroes from Brisbane, to not possibly play in the same test match for many, many years to come?
I mean, that's a fair point. That's a fair point, rightly. I think we've already seen someone like Natarajan not being part of the test squad. I think we were expecting that to happen. But listen, what we've seen is the quality of bench strength that India has. And I think that's a very, very important aspect of it. So, yeah, I mean, the fact that India won that test series with a lot of people who weren't expected to be part of the playing 11 initially, that just tells you, the future's in good hand. It says a lot about the Indian cricketing system. The victory was not just about the Indian cricket team. It was also victory or win for the Indian cricketing system, and everyone's involved with the Indian cricketing system. So, I mean, that way, your future is in safe hands. But can we see them together again in the next few months or something? I think that might not be possible. Now, going back to, obviously, there are two debates to be had here. Rather three. It's the combination 3+2, as in three spinners or two, then the second debate would be among the spinners. Who do you want those three spinners to be? And then obviously the third debate, which is who do you want the seamers to be, if there are two seamers. When you asked about the two seamers thing, and there are a couple of questions there about, obviously Bumrah walks in. Bumrah walks in without a shadow of doubt in my head. Now the second seamer, that's a very tricky one, because you have someone like Siraj, who picked up a 6 for, and then you already have the seniors available for this test match, in someone like Ishants Sharma. Now, for me, I think that's going to be a tricky call. I personally would look at it from a different angle, the seamer aspect, and say that, listen, Mohammad Siraj, you need to give him a break, because he's played a lot of test matches and a lot of cricket in Australia, and he might also be part of the India white ball squad for this series as well. So what I'm going to look at is maybe rotate them a bit, play Mohammad Siraj the first test match, make him available for the first test match, make him play with Bumrah. Also, he's in form. He just picked up 6 for in the last test match, and maybe try and rest him before the white ball cricket and get Ishant back in the squad maybe after the second test match or something. So I'll be thinking of rotation, not dropping or dropping someone, but also thinking about the amount of cricket that India is going to play in the next 6-8 months. So for me, keeping all that in mind, the first test match, the two seamers that I would be personally looking at would be Bumrah and Siraj.
Right. But Pragyan, Deep has also made this point about the bench strength. You've also spoken about bench strength. We've discussed the strong backup system that Indian cricket has. But it's also with the return of Virat Kohli, right? You talk about the leadership group that Ajinkya Rahane led so successfully in Australia after Adelaide. It is now arguably the strongest test setup in the world, isn't it? You forget what happened in England in 2018 and South Africa, because those are all parts of processes, right? Which a lot of detractors did not want to believe and agree with, but that was all part of processes. Mistakes were made along the way. there were issues with the team combination, but they finally arrived at good place after following processes. And Virat Kohli's quite clearly had a lot of that to do with Ravi Shastri and the senior team management. It's heartening to see that it has developed into a strong structure like it has.
Yes, I can't agree more. It's quite evident that the setup that we had, yeah, all this, you're talking about uh, the think tank within the team, the leadership group, people at NCA, everybody, they have worked together. They are all in one line to make sure that what we do, whatever we do, we achieve our goals. And in Australia, we could see that clearly. Without Virat Kohli, without us, few senior members, this young side went out and did they created history. And I think Virat will be very confident that he knows that that thing was created, that Virat was the only reason why India would win overseas. Now, I think rest of the boys have taken that pressure off him, and it's a great thing. You don't want your best batsman to be in that space where he always thinks that if I don't do well, then my team may suffer. But now things have changed. It's clear that everybody is up for the challenge, and it's all about the team effort, and the whole team can do well. But saying that, as Deep said, Siraj and Bumrah, I have a little different opinion here. Someone like Ishant Sharma, I feel someone like him should either play, because he's already played somewhere around 96, 97 test matches. So either he has to play because he's the leader of the pack. Either he has to play in the 11, or he's not there in the 15. That's how it is. He cannot be sitting out. If he's injured or he is not fit, that's a different story. But if he's fit, he's already passed his tests, and he's played that domestic cricket, that is the norm for any player to come back into the team. So he's ready. So Bumrah and Ishant should be playing. Yes, we have got a great bowler in Siraj, but that's how it goes. Ishant has to be there in the 11.
Can I quickly add to what just
Yes, yes.
mentioned? My point is a little different. My point is you're not dropping any of the balls. I think Siraj has proven that he deserves a place on that table. Obviously, Ishant has over the years, especially last 3-4 years, 97 test matches, but especially the last 3-4 years that Ishant has played and the way he's performed. Obviously, Bumrah is there, Shami will be back. So what I'm looking at is not actually dropping anyone. I'm looking at managing the workload. Let's not forget that Bumrah, Shami to a certain extent, Siraj, Navdeep Saini, all these are all format players. And if you look at it from here, we straight move into the T20s, ODIs, IPL, World Test Championship, hopefully the England series, then South Africa, Sri Lanka, maybe Asia Cup, then the World Cup. So for me, I think it's very important to manage the workload. Let's just get rid of this whole the word dropping as far as Indian fast bowlers are concerned. I think it's time to manage the workload, rotate for example, I would be looking to not play Bumrah all the 4 test matches. Maybe rotate that. Maybe rotate between when Shami is available, rotate between Shami, Bumrah, Siraj, and Ishant. All the 4 test matches, and even Umesh for that matter. So I think it's important that we keep in mind the amount of cricket that Indian players will play in the next 6-8 months, and accordingly manage that.
No, good point, because you have to also see
Yeah,
the way India have managed their workload. Yes.
I'll just add a point there. Last 2020, we didn't have any cricket at all, and Ishant Sharma has not played enough cricket. And if you talk about Siraj has just played IPL, and that too he's not played all the games, and he's just in Australia he played 3 test matches. So if you talk about the whole year, none of the bowlers have bowled enough. Yes, Bumrah, but he's young, so I feel rotation will create that little bit of doubt in everybody's mind. No matter what, if you're playing regularly, I feel you get more and more better every time that you play. So rotation only is effective in certain countries, but I don't feel in India. India, they should take care of the bowlers, but I think these guys should play. I don't think there was too much cricket happening last year, so there won't be any issue with these guys playing. Ishant, Bumrah, Siraj, and say Shami. I feel if Shami is back, then that'll be a great headache. Either Bumrah, Ishant, or Shami, who's going to play? Because two fast bowlers are going to play in India. So who's it going to be?
But then, Deep, there is also this other argument that we're getting a lot of viewer questions, and it's if Hardik is not fit enough to bowl, right? Shardul Thakur has shown his prowess with the bat, that swagger, those Viv Richards like drives, those sixes. Would there be a chance the Indian management will also look at Shardul Thakur, because yes, Hardik Pandya has obviously carved his niche as an excellent batsman down the order, but again, if he's not going to bowl, is he going to feature in part of your plans? And if he's not going to bowl, then why not Shardul Thakur?
No, I mean, listen, for me, and I've mentioned this right at the top, that if he's not bowling, then it becomes a little difficult to get him to back at number 6, 7, and now that Rishabh is batting the way he is. So for me, I think someone like him needs to bowl. And maybe, like I said, if he's not bowling, it'll be difficult. Maybe he's not there for the first couple of test matches. He's there to be monitored and kind of assessed how he's bowling, whether he's bowling. The whole process of getting him ready to bowl when India goes to England. So yeah, and that is on one side. Shardul, I think, and I honestly believe there are 2-3 bowlers like him, bowling all-rounders like Bhuvneshwar. I don't know what Bhuvneshwar's future is with red ball cricket, with all the injuries that he's had for the last 2-3 years. So you've got Bhuvneshwar, you've got Shardul, and again, we haven't tested Rahul Chahar in red ball cricket, but he's another one of those guys, swing bowler who can bat at number 8. Now, for me, Shardul is a bowler who can bat, and he's proven that in Australia, he's proven that in domestic cricket as well, at international level as well. But for me, he's someone who can bat at number 8, not before that, right? So Shardul becomes very, very important again when you're traveling overseas. And especially conditions like England, because he's again not too many bowlers are swing bowlers in this whole pack. So I think for me, Shardul again is very, very important member of that pack, of the fast bowling group, because his areas of expertise is different, a little different from the others. So I'm going to be very, very careful and monitor him as well, because he's someone who I think personally will be very, very useful overseas, and especially conditions like England.
Absolutely. But having spoken of the Indian perspective, and look at also the words coming out of the England camp. I know they are not as aggressive or as if I use the word outrageous as the Aussies are sometimes. Moeen Ali is also almost admitting that England are fearful of Virat Kohli, Pragyan. Before a series like that, I get it. You want to downplay it. Virat is not someone opposition teams would want to engage with in conversation. A lot of them wouldn't want to sledge him. But what sort of message does that send out ahead of a marquee series? I get it. Virat is the best batsman in the world across formats. He's had an intimidating presence. Great series against England in 2016. But when you hear words like that, what sort of a message does it send out about the English camp? Smart move, or is it just oh look, we are gentlemen, we're trying to downplay everything?
They're just trying to. It's very clear that they're trying to be not getting into this verbal argument or anything. They have made it clear. Yes, Virat Kohli is what he is. We are not going to focus on those things. And I'm very sure England will be thinking we don't want to make the same kind of mistake what Aussies did. Let's not do this. Let's focus on our cricket and let's play our cricket the way we want to. And whatever it is, we're not going to speak about it, and just let those things be there. That's what I get from their message.
Right. But Deep, also the England team, right? Yes, both you and Obez Shah the other day, you said yet India outright favourites to win the series. You gave your margins. But you look at the England team from that perspective. You have Joe Root, excellent player of spin. The kind of nuts he got with his sweep shots in Sri Lanka against the Sri Lanka spinners. before I also want Pragyan's perspective on this, but also from you as a wicketkeeper and as a batsman, Deep, how difficult and how different is it going to be on Indian pitches and against Indian spinners, more formidable and more experienced? And you saw where he swept, and you saw how he swept. Um, those runs, how are they going to make an impact of those shots against the kind of spinners here? What sort of difference and what sort of impact will it have in Indian conditions against these guys?
Huge difference. I mean, huge difference in terms of level of bowling. I mean, the Sri Lankan spinners, with all due respect, obviously you can't compare them with someone like Ashwin and even Kuldeep. So I think for me, these two spinners definitely should play, Ashwin and Kuldeep. And obviously the quality is a lot different. But let's not also forget that Joe Root is a class act. I mean, if you look at the last couple of years, it wasn't that he wasn't scoring a lot of runs. It was just he wasn't scoring a lot of big runs. So he was getting his 50s and 70s. There was an issue with him converting those 50s into big ones. And that was the issue. Now, if you look at the last series, I mean, listen, he's got a double 100 and a 180 or 190 or something that he's got. So now he's converting. So I think the quality is there. He's one of the best batsmen against spin bowling. And now they've also made this change. Initially, they said Bairstow would not be available for the first two test matches, but now I believe he'll be available for the second test match. I think that's again someone who's the second highest run getter in this English squad in test match cricket. So Bairstow will be back for the second test because they do realize the importance of people who can bat spin really well and dominate spin. Now, that's a very important aspect that someone like Joe Root can dominate. It's not going to be easy, like I said. I mean, we're talking about Ashwin and Kuldeep, and especially Ashwin. So the quality is much different. But yeah, I mean, we're talking about a great, subplot there, Joe Root. Because end of the day, I think a lot will depend on how Joe Root kind of bats in this series. Because if you look at that first three, the top three, Zach Crawley, I guess this is how it's going to be planned out. I think it's going to be Rory Burns, Dom Sibley, and Zach Crawley, 1, 2, 3. That looks a little fragile to me, especially in subcontinental conditions. So a lot will depend on that middle order. Ben Stokes, he's going to play after a while. Ben Stokes, especially Joe Root, and then you have someone like Ben Foakes and all that. But Joe Root, I think it's going to be very, very important for England.
Right. And Pragyan, they say a lot of the times, right? We've heard say that when a batsman is in doubt, he just sweep. But the game has changed these days. The game has clearly, when you look at Joe Root, who got over 400 runs, about 160 or 170 of them were of sweep shots. That was the one of the highlights of Joe Root's performances in Sri Lanka. How will that disrupt if he keeps on doing that successfully? How does that disrupt the lens for an off spinner or a left-arm Chinaman like Kuldeep?
I'll just like to throw some light on the England mindset or the Sena countries when they come to India. Duncan Fletcher was our coach, so he was already with England. Then he came and he was with us. So Duncan Fletcher had an idea where he wanted his batsmen to sweep the spinners. It was more about disturbing the line and length. Because when you're playing in subcontinent, the ball is going to turn, the ball is going to hold a bit, there will be bounce. It'll be very kind of difficult for a batsman to play those conventional strokes. So you need to get your way out of it. To do that, first thing what Duncan told us was, try and sweep the spinners. When you sweep, then the bowler always has that doubt where he knows if his line is little bit here and there, maybe he is like, maybe the line moves a little away from the stumps, then there's always a chance where the batsman can go for a sweep. So it is more about disturbing the bowler's line and length. That's how they started. But now they have become more confident and they know that is one shot which they can use to score runs, like sweeping the ball and then those reverse sweep. So it becomes difficult for a bowler. But when you're facing someone like Ashwin, it's a different thing. We have seen that in Australia. A few batsmen, they tried sweeping Ashwin, but they were not successful. And it will be very interesting to see what Ashwin and if Kuldeep plays, what what are their plans. And mind you, in India, when you're playing sweep shots, you also have to remember the ball is going to keep low, and if you miss, there is a very high chance that you end up being LBW. That's what I've seen a lot of bowlers do, especially Indian bowlers, try and bowl straight on the stump.
Right. And you take away the scoring options like we saw with Steve Smith, and to an extent, Manas Labuschagne obviously was the highest scorer in the series, but you saw what happened with Steve Smith. You to take away his scoring opportunities and his scoring options and stifle him down the leg side. And it'll be interesting, like Pragyan said, it'll be interesting to see the way the Indian team approaches Joe Root and that mammoth run scoring machine that's coming with England. It's going to be a fascinating contest because it's the same team management, the same brains that sort of orchestrated everything, and you have your captain, your champion captain back. It's going to be a pretty interesting contest. It will be contest within contest, Deep. That's what makes Test cricket so special.
Absolutely. I mean, there are quite a few. I mean, listen, we haven't, I'm sure in future programs we'll be talking about the England side because let's not forget Anderson just picked up a sixer in the last test in Sri Lanka. You have Broad, who's done well, then Jofra Archer. Then I'm sure we'll talk about their bowling side as well. Tom Bess, Moeen Ali, Jack Leach, and all that. We'll definitely will be taking those topics as well. But I mean, listen, the first thing right now is, as far as India is concerned, is getting that combination right, getting their playing 11 right. And I guess we will talk about the batsmen again soon. But today was all about bowlers, and that's where I think I would like to ask this question to Pragyan and his opinion on this. I think both of us, Pragyan, agree, and including you, Rashi, we agree that 5 bowlers, which includes 1 all-rounder and 2 + 2. Do we agree on that? Yeah,
Yes.
Pragyan?
Yeah.
Right. So now I think with 2 steamers, we've already had a discussion. I think we both agree to disagree on the 2 personnel, the seamers that Pragyan and I would like, which is fine. That's great, I guess. Then looking at the spinners, the 2 spinners, guys, would you agree is Kuldeep and Ashwin, the 2 spinners?
Ashwin, yes, the all-rounder, because in India, Ashwin has a brilliant batting numbers that we can say. So we cannot take him out of the equation, and especially in Australia, the way he batted. I think in India, he'll have a lot of confidence, and he's playing in his home turf. So he knows Chennai really well. So he'll be very, very...
So Pragya, you agree with Ashwin and Kuldeep, the 2 spinners? Would you agree with that? Kuldeep and Ashwin?
Kuldeep and Ashwin, that's how it goes. Without
now, so 2 + 2 is done. Now it's the all-rounder thing. Sorry. So you have obviously 3 options. I mean, I don't think Hardik can be, if he's not bowling, we can talk about him as an all-rounder. But let's just talk about the third spinner, if we might put it that way. Who would you go for, Axar or Washington Sundar?
I'll go for Axar Patel.
And that would be why? I mean, any particular reasons after what Washington's done in Australia?
It's the variation. It's the variation that you're looking for. As a captain, Virat Kohli has the choice of playing 3 different spinners. Why go with 2 off spinners? I can understand, yes, if you don't have an option, but if you have an option, just go with variation. And this wicket, I'm very sure it's not going to be a wicket where it starts turning. It'll be a decent wicket with little bit of bounce. The Chepak then and the Chepak now is different, as you said.
Yeah.
The soil has changed. It's not the 100% red soil. They've mixed it a bit. So you need variations. You've got 2 seamers, and you have the luxury of playing 3 different spinners. One world-class spinner, Ashwin. The other one is Kuldeep, the Chinaman bowler. You rarely see any Chinaman bowler nowadays. And then someone like Axar, who can bowl those tight overs like Jaddu used to do, and he can bat a bit.
Perfect. I mean, that would be my choice as well. I mean, even though Washington has done so well in Australia, but I think very similar. You've got Ashwin there as well. So I mean, a left-arm wrist spinner, left-arm orthodox, and then obviously you have Ashwin. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think I'm going to go with that as well. So for me, I think that between Axar and Washington, I would prefer Axar as well. Rashi, your take?
Absolutely. No, I agree with both you gentlemen. Axar, because of that variation he brings in, and Washington again, I think is a little similar to the kind of bowler R. Ashwin was with that. With his off spin, and he'd be more controlled, right, over longer spells and more sustained periods. So does he have the first class experience to do that? Great with what he did in Australia, he was remarkable. But does he have that experience? And I'm sure he's only 21, 22. He will get many more opportunities, and he will hopefully become one of the stars to look forward to for India across formats. But gentlemen, there are some very interesting questions pouring in. Pragyan, I'll get this one to you. It's funny that people are asking about how many sixes will come up because Rishabh Pant, now they're getting used to Rishabh Pant. That whole wicketkeeper syndrome, right? We've talked about Adam Gilchrist down the ages, Mahendra Singh Dhoni. Now Rishabh Pant, they're asking us how many sixes will Rishabh Pant do you think he's going to tackle with? He's going to hit Jack Leach, and how is he going to tackle him? Given how he played Nathan Lyon, stepping out against the turn, hitting him for sixes on precarious day 5 pitches. And he's also asking what's the length of the boundary at the Chipok and how easy will it be to hit sixes?
I think he's trying to go too deep into the conditions and the situations there. But I'm very sure it will be the other way around. England bowlers will be thinking about how do they tackle Rishabh Pant. Rishabh Pant will be Rishabh Pant. He's going to play the way he plays. He's not going to change, or he won't be even thinking about what his approach will be. He knows what he has to do. It's those guys, how they need to tackle Rishabh Pant, because in India, if Rishabh Pant bats the way he batted there in Australia, game will change drastically. Those runs will decide the margin of the fourth day, or maybe the win ratio. That's the impact Rishabh Pant is going to have in this test match.
Right. Rishabh Pant fear factor will also play along for England, Deep, because he's somebody who can just take the game away from you quickly and turn it on his head.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There is no two ways about it. His greatest strength. Two of his greatest strengths are obviously his ability, and secondly is his mindset. The way he just wants to dominate, irrespective of who the opposition is, what the conditions are. That's a mindset which, it's not that everyone has it. So he has that mindset, and we've seen it during his interview with Boria, that he always wants to win. That's like a different kind of mindset. So it's more than Rishabh, as Pragyan mentioned. It's about how England bowlers or English bowlers are going to plan against him, and how are their reaction. I still remember, and Pragyan would vouch for that. And when he had someone like let's say Viru who would go out to bat, it wasn't Viru who was worried, it was the opposition bowlers who were worried. What is he going to do and how am I going to bowl?
Very true.
So that's the kind of mindset that the opposition would have in Rishabh, because as Pragyan said, Rishabh will bat like Rishabh does.
Yeah. And there's another question. This one's for you. RHL Year of 34 is asking, like you rightly said, we will touch on the England combination as well in the future shows leading up to the test match. But here's a quick one. Anderson and Archer, or Broad and Archer, because obviously England have rotated quite a bit, but would they want to do that without Anderson in the first test match, especially after what he did in Sri Lanka in the last one?
Listen, they will rotate. I think Archer will not be available for all 4 test matches. I think he's going to go back and come back again for the white ball cricket. So I think they're going to go with Archer and Anderson is what I would like to believe. Then maybe second one it will be Archer and Broad or something like that. That's what they did in Sri Lanka, right? They rotated they rotated Broad and Anderson. And there's a big debate of actually, people wanting to see both Anderson and Broad together. Broader son, I think the term they're using, a broader son. But I think that would be a little far-fetched, or I don't think that would be on offer. I think it'll be Jofra and Anderson. Personally speaking, you can go with both, but personally, I would go with Jofra and Anderson in the first test match.
Interesting choice.
And also they have the luxury of... I think Ben Stokes is there, so
that third team.
Have the luxury of Ben Stokes. See, that's where I say if Hardik starts bowling, it will be a different team. That's where you get that cushion. Someone who can bat so well and give you those quality overs. In T20 cricket and one-day cricket, Hardik can bowl and get away, even if he doesn't pick up wickets. But in Test match, he has to pick up those wickets. He has to bowl with his full fitness. That will be the biggest difference. That's where Ben Stokes is so important. That's where Jack Callis was the biggest cushion for South Africa.
Right. Right. A lot of viewer questions coming in. I'll quickly take as many as we can. We're quickly running out of time. Sayan Pandya has asked about the kind of pitch India would want to play in, but Sayan, both Deep and Pragyan have already touched upon the nature of the pitch that might be an offer in Chennai. Kumar Rishav is asking Deep, so what do you think is India now the strongest in which format? But I think Deep had already touched upon that last month. But Deep, do you want to quickly take that? And Pragyan, do you want to see where India is the strongest?
That's a very tricky one. I think, the way things are going, I think maybe T20 with someone like Hardik fit and Rishabh fit as batsmen. I think T20 number one as of now, and then two obviously Test match and ODI. We still looking. I'm personally speaking. If Hardik starts bowling, then ODI looks much better. But as of now, I'd say T20, Test match cricket, and ODI. Pragyan, your take?
For me, the Test team. Imagine our main team, the main first 11 comes and plays. What kind of a team that will be? The second team played and they just beat the best team in the world. Australians, they've been playing at home. They had their best 11 playing against us. But look at the way we played. I think number one will be Test, and then anything. T20 or one day.
Don't care.
Yeah. For me, Test. Yeah, I think. Look at the way we played. Yes, one day and T20. Mind you, we have already played one day and T20, but we're talking about the Test series. Look at the way we played. That is why I'm saying this is the strongest.
Pragyan, I also think the England series will be a big indicator actually where we stand in Test match cricket. I think Australia was wonderful.
In England, you're talking about.
Yeah, in England. India in England. Yeah. I mean, I think that'll be a real acid test.
Right. We have a lot of questions. I'm sorry we won't be able to take all of them. Siva Lingam, for instance, is asking, will R. Ashwin complete 400 Test wickets? I mean, we hope he does. He will need about 22, 23 wickets to do that. If he can get those many wickets,
we are going
to comprehensively get this one.
4 Test match series, he's got a very good chance. Fair chance.
Yeah. I think the biggest challenge for someone like Ashwin, he's bowling brilliantly. He's bowling beautifully. There's no two ways about it. It's the biggest challenge would be, playing all 4 Test matches, being 100% fit for all those 4 Test matches. I think that for me would be the biggest challenge. If he plays 4 Test matches,
India, in subcontinent, no spinner would say that I'm unfit. even with one leg hopping, he'll come and bowl.
Fair enough. There you go. So 400 is definitely a possibility. Definitely.
Absolutely on the cards. But before I go, I put Deep and Umesh in the spot, Pragyan, with their margin of victory and their overwhelming favorites for the series. You were covering the side Mushtaq, so here is my chance to put you in the spot. What's your series prediction?
I feel in pink ball Test they will have some chance because of the condition, but the other games it's India all the way.
Right. So there you go. We've spoken to Pragyan, Deep, and we will continue to speak to them before.
One thing, Rashi, Pragyan, number.
Okay, yeah. Let's yes, fair enough, Deep, fair enough. Pragyan, give us a number.
Score line, yeah.
1-3. And that too, like 40% chance to England in pink ball. Only pink ball.
Okay, fair enough. So we've.
Sorry, actually, just give me 30 seconds.
Yes,
this is the same thing which happened before the Australia Test series, isn't it? The Australians said only pink ball Test, India has a chance, and it'll be right. So yeah, it'll be interesting.
It'll be interesting, we'll. This is what we want, right? We want to make things interesting. We want to lay it out in the open, and we want to see how things pan out. But like you, absolute pleasure talking cricket with Deep Gupta, Pragyan Oja. We will continue to build up for the England series. We have a very special interview. Boria Majumdar has spoken to VVS Lakshman exclusively on Sports Today, so you can watch that full interview at 2 p.m. this afternoon at 5 o'clock. Do not miss out Boria's 5 at 5 with all his latest exclusive news that he brings to you. But thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Deep and Pragyan, for your insightful views. And we will keep bringing every analysis, interviews, and facts, stats, and other facets of what is going to be a completely thrilling test series to watch and to cover. Thank you so much for joining Sports Today.